interesting and engaging for all of us, if we have an opportunity to dialogue and have a bit of a conversation. So I certainly do encourage you to take that approach. Before I do share any slides, though, I think what I'd like to do is ask each of you, perhaps, if you have the ability, whether you're joining us from a desktop, laptop, tablet, phone, if you wouldn't mind sharing in the chat feature, what type of career role are you seeking that is leading you to consider graduate school, particularly at the master's level? So if you have a certain company in mind, if you have a certain title or type of role, this would be a great chance. I'd very much like to kind of get a better sense of who we have here in the virtual room this afternoon. And I'll try to certainly share some information that's more relevant that way. So I'll give folks a minute or so here, if you wouldn't mind sharing through the chat feature. If we don't get anything, that's all good too. I'm perfectly comfortable either way, but wanted to take the opportunity to customize a bit if we could here. All right, Jabril, thanks so much. Yeah, currently working as a professional and considering engineering education. So looking to see what else is out there. I think that's wise, to explore options. And, in my capacity as director for our professional engineering programs, I'm talking with students at all phases of this process. Folks that are, currently in undergrad, folks that are in professional roles already for anywhere from 1 to 8 or 10 years, really, depending on the circumstances. And so, I have the privilege of working with students from a wide range of roles. And so thanks for joining us. We'll give another just 30 seconds here or so in case others would like to share a chat. Maybe some of you are thinking, Eric, you're supposed to be telling us the information, not asking us to be involved. So that's fair as well. We'll give it another 10 seconds here just in case anyone would like to share. Okay, cool. Joseph, thanks so much. Currently an undergrad junior in Purdue in ECE and just exploring options. All right. Well, we'll just take that approach then, okay? And thanks to the two of you for those comments. And again, if any questions come up, feel free to utilize the chat feature to share those throughout our time here this afternoon. Okay, so if you are considering graduate school, of course, there are multiple paths now, that are available to you. First you need to be thinking about either that PhD or master's type of level. And great, thanks also for the other comments and questions there. Pardon me, doing a lot of talking these days, so let me take a quick drink here. All right, and so great to know for the rest of you, Natalie and Emily, Zhuang Yuan, thank you so much. So I think when you're considering about graduate school, the very first question you need to ask yourself is, why? Why graduate school, right? Are you thinking about doing research, perhaps through a traditional PhD or thesis master's program? Are you looking to expand your profile, maybe pivot into a different area compared to your undergrad or the work that you're currently doing? All right, and having that goal in mind, all right, figuring out what is the driving motivation, the driving force that is going to lead you, to pursuing an extra degree, right? I can tell you, through my work with a lot of our industry partners, they're interested in students that have a more broad skill set, all right? But before we jump into that, all right, when you think about graduate school, a lot of times students immediately think about the research track because that's certainly the traditional track. For myself, that is the type of program that I was in for my graduate degree. But the reality is there's a very different track that is just as equally valuable for industry, just as equally enjoyable and perhaps more so on the curriculum side, all right? And that gives you a different flavor and maybe even a bit more control over the type of experience that you have. And that's where the professional master's types of programs come into play. All right. So a lot of times I talk with students and they think, I didn't even realize, that I could pursue a program like this. I thought research was the only option. All right. To me, really, as you look at graduate schools, the major deciding factor here is what's next for you after your master's. And that really is what we want to determine so that we can work our way backward and so that we can be very intentional and goal-oriented in making this big life choice, right? So what is a professional master's at Purdue in the College of Engineering designed to do? It's designed to put you on a track toward technical leadership, okay? So if you'd like to work in industry, all right, in a wide range of roles, but you want to move into leadership roles, right? Managing a team of engineers, working as a project manager, working, let's say, to going maybe even to start your own company, right? Or going with a first phase startup that maybe has that first round of funding completed, or maybe has just reached a steady state. All right. So a technical master's like this, a professional master's, can put you on that pathway. All right. And so I've been at the helm of our Master of Engineering Management program for almost 6 years, which is wonderful because this style of program at Purdue has been around just about 10 years. All right. And so we have one of the quote unquote older, more established professional masters in the college. And I've seen directly from our graduates in terms of their placement outcomes, the companies where they work, the roles that they're in, the salaries that they earn, the value of this type of degree, right? So I'm speaking to you not just anecdotally and in terms of what my own individual experience has been, but from now a good quantity of data points in terms of our graduates and where they've gone on to work. And we'll certainly talk a little bit about that too. So just sort of to sum up this first part here before I go into a bit more depth about the type of programs that we offer at the university, and then one in particular, the Masters of Engineering Management, just be thinking about, what type of work do you want to do? Okay. Do you want to give yourself a competitive advantage? Do you want to pursue a master's program that allows you to make course choices that are right for you and your own interests, as opposed to maybe doing a research program where you're maybe more focused on a faculty member's research interests? And so I think that's a really differentiating feature when we talk about a professional master's program. So let me do a quick screen share here and just let you know that we actually at Purdue now have many different options for you to pursue in terms of different focuses, different disciplines in engineering that are really giving you the opportunity to more customize or align your experience with really what you're seeking as an individual, all right? So I'll do a quick screen share here. And if you'd like to gather more information, and I'll share this also in the chat, this quick link, you can check out our landing page for professional master's programs in the College of Engineering, all right? And I'll get you this link here just quickly in the chat. So feel free to go check that out. But basically, as I scroll down here, as you can see, we've got a professional master's program now in almost every discipline that's offered at the graduate level in the College of Engineering. Not quite every single one is represented, all right, as far as discipline specific goes. But it's very much the focus of our dean and of our leadership of the college that ultimately pretty much every discipline will have a more professionally oriented master's. Now, for most of these programs, they are intended primarily as residential programs on the professional master's side, but there are a few that are offering and beginning to offer an online option as well. But generally, professional master's programs, what are some of the special features of those, okay? First and foremost, these can typically be completed in about 1 year. So if you're looking, maybe if you're coming back from industry and maybe leaving a position potentially to join us on campus, if you are getting close to wrapping up your bachelor program and really are looking to earn a higher level of education, but wanting to do so in a swifter fashion so that you can get out there into your full-time career, I think that's definitely an advantage of a professional master's program, because really most of these can be completed in just 1 year, which is really great, all right? And each of these, if you want to click into these, depending on your interest level, you'll find that each of these programs have some distinguishing or differentiating features. So for example, when I think of electrical and computer engineering's professional masters, they have a focus on innovation, all right, and innovation technology. And of course, that's very appropriate for an ECE role. And so their curriculum is really structured around that focus. I know for chemical engineering, they have a project component built into their curriculum. And so while you're not necessarily focused on and doing research, as part of your chemical engineering professional master's program, you have the opportunity to gain additional project-based experience with a project of your choosing, right? That lets you really determine the focus and the topic and the content. So those are a couple particular examples. As I mentioned, I'll talk here in a little bit about the engineering management program that is open to students from any engineering discipline. But before I do that, I also wanted to mention our dual degree program. So if you are maybe a bit torn between a Master of Science in Engineering and an MBA, or you really see yourself moving ultimately, into like C-suite types of roles, or roles that maybe don't necessarily have a strong technical component further into your career, but before you do that, you want additional engineering experience, considering this dual degree program could be very beneficial for you, because you do earn actually both of these degrees and you can do it in just 2 years. The university was able to get a really strong partnership together between the College of Engineering and Krannert, School of Management, in conjunction with our graduate school. And so we can share additional credits between these programs that allow you to earn both degrees for less of a tuition investment and less amount of time than you would if you would do these separately. So that's another question as well. Jabril, great question here in terms of funding opportunities. So that's definitely an important differentiator for professional master's programs, right? In a traditional research program, you are maybe hired as a research assistant, as a teaching assistant, as a graduate assistant, usually through funding from your professor or your home department that they've secured through grants, right, at a national level, through industry partnerships, et cetera, So in a professional master's program, because they are not research focused, students do not have the opportunity specifically for assistantship funding, right? So most of the students that will come through a professional master's program are self-funded, and that's definitely something to consider, okay? Yeah, great questions coming in too, Danelle. Thank you so much. We're going to get to all of these, I promise you. So that's definitely one factor to be aware of, right? I will talk to you a bit here in terms of the engineering management program about how a lot of students offset that tuition cost. I can tell you that the tuition cost in general, I'm speaking specifically for engineering management, but the tuition structure is very similar for every single one of these programs other than the dual program that you're seeing here. The tuition cost for total for each of these professional masters would be roughly about $41,000 to $42,000 total. And that's for students that are out of state or international students. All right. And there is an in-state tuition rate for these programs, which is wonderful, right? For those of you, just to make sure we're all on the same page, Purdue is Indiana's land grant institution, right? So we are a public institution, which for those Indiana residents also helps keep our tuition very modest. So for in-state residents for a professional master's, you're looking at around $15,000 to $16,000 total for tuition costs. So again, out-of-state students or international students, around $41,000, $42,000 total for tuition. And for in-state Hoosiers, right, Indiana residents, we're looking at around $15,000 to $16,000. So that's a great question. Danelle's got a great question here in terms of if you're wanting to stay more technical on your career path, would the dual degree be a benefit for industry? I still say yes. I think one thing to keep in mind there, though, is that typically for an MBA program, you wouldn't go into an MBA directly from an undergraduate. And that's for a number of reasons. Part of it is the tuition investment and the upfront costs there. Part of it is that, the MBA as a degree was really designed for individuals that had full-time industry experience to leave the position, in its original iteration for these MBA programs, to leave your career for 1 or 2 years, earn the MBA, then go back with a higher level in the org chart with a higher salary. And then because of that experience that you brought before you joined an MBA, the concepts are much more applicable to you when you do case studies, right? When you're working in group projects with individuals that also come from different industry backgrounds, you're getting a different type of education at that point. So I think the dual degree could still be valuable for students that are looking to stay on a technical path, but I'm not sure I would necessarily generally recommend it for students coming right out of a bachelor level program. I think the other thing to be aware of here, and I'm mentioning this a lot when I talk to students considering the engineering management masters, is that some industry companies will be valuing technical degrees more. Others will be valuing MBA degrees more. I would say more and more of the companies with whom I speak would rather have a technical master's degree, particularly for those individuals that are looking to stay in project manager, operations manager, program manager types of roles. So I would say, you'll find some variation there. It depends really who's in leadership. And I would say the best way to determine that is to look at who are those at the top C-suite level and below that senior VP types of level roles. Have they gone through and received MBAs, earned MBAs? Have they gone through and earned more technical degrees? So yeah, Jabril, thanks for verifying that from your experience as well. Definitely do some research in that regard. All right, so back to quickly here, just wanting you to make sure you're aware that we have a large menu of programs to offer you at the professional master's level. And so right now I'd like to talk to you a bit more about one in particular. And this is a program that, as I mentioned, is designed to accommodate students from any engineering background. And this is the program that's called the Master of Engineering Management. And as I mentioned, I've been at the helm of this program for coming up on 6 years. And it's really been a joy to help this program grow, to work with our students from the time they're where you are right now in terms of just exploring options all the way through graduation and even as alums. I was actually doing several phone calls last week with students that are at companies like Amazon and Wayfair and Illumina, just hearing about how they've seen this experience help their career advance and help them grow. So I'd like to talk to you a little bit for the remainder of our time here about the Master of Engineering Management program. And so we are a smaller program of about 70 students at any given time. And because of that, you really are able to get, let's say, substantial level of individual focus and guidance and mentorship from myself, from Karen Hull, who is our graduate program manager, and then from other students in the program as well. About half of our students join directly from a bachelor's program and the other half join with industry experience. So it's really a unique blend of students. We have students from Purdue undergrad, we have students from institutions around the US, we have students from around the world, from India, from China, from Dominican Republic, from Ecuador, from Argentina, from Turkey, from Paraguay, the list, from Russia, from Kazakhstan. I mean, the list goes on and on. It's really a cool blend of folks. We have individuals coming from US military backgrounds, and really almost every engineering discipline is represented in our cohort too. So it's really a dynamic learning environment in that way. And we really pride ourselves a lot on helping our students develop holistically as they go through the program experience. We do have a very cool video. I'm not going to take time today, just in the interest of making sure we get through things. But if you want to check out our homepage, which I'll share the link a bit later here, we've got a really just nice kind of feature video that's only about 60, 75 seconds long. If you wanted to take a quick peek at that, just to get a better sense, quick overview of the program. I think most of you are familiar with Purdue at this point, so I don't think I'll spend too much time to talk about the university itself. I'm sure you've heard a lot about that over the last day and a half. But I think the one thing I do want to emphasize here is that Purdue has, because of its long, rich history, now being in our 151st year, because we have always had a focus on engineering, because of the reputation that we have built amongst industry partners and through our, path makers, like Neil Armstrong, like Captain Sully Sullenberger, those folks come to mind as Purdue alums, right? We've just got a global brand that is recognized and respected. And, it's no accident that we have 400 employers come to campus typically each September to hire Purdue engineers, right? So, the reputation is there and it means a lot when it comes to the hiring process. All right. Nguyen, thank you so much. Duong Nguyen, thanks for joining us. Definitely check out that website if you're interested in the Master of Engineering Management program, and feel free to reach out to me. I'll share my email here real quick for anyone that may have to jet early for class. if you do want to check in with me. Ratika, thank you so much as well. I appreciate you joining us. So let's talk about our curriculum for Master of Engineering Management. This is really cool because you get a hybrid, right? You get courses that are still technically focused, so you're still getting depth in that area, building a skill set, building expertise, but you're also getting exposure to foundational management concepts in areas like analytics or operations or strategy, all right? And this combination, I would say, is incredibly valuable in getting the attention of employers for helping you move into a managerial role if you haven't been in one in the past, or accelerating your trajectory into a management role, particularly if you're joining us directly from an undergraduate degree, all right? So this is a really flexible curriculum. It basically lets you build your own puzzle, right? You get to choose what the pieces are based on your background, based on what you're trying to do after graduation, and then we connect A to B through this curriculum, right? So it's really unique in that way. So one of our students described it as an engineer's MBA. I mean, you could kind of take it that direction if you wanted, but clearly we're very intentionally designed to still be a technical degree, right? And that's why the weight of our courses are still balanced on the engineering side. And so what do our students do after graduation? Because of this curriculum, they go into roles like operations managers at Amazon, into supply chain manager roles, into technical program manager roles at Google, for example. We've got, right now I have 3 students at Tesla working in co-op roles there. We've got students at SpaceX and at Raytheon, at Northrop Grumman, at Lockheed Martin, at Apple. I mean, it's a really long list, folks, which is awesome. So again, I mentioned at the beginning of our time here, we've got data to support the value of these types of professional master's degrees and certainly to our Master of Engineering Management degree. And so you'll notice here, I mentioned we've got a 1-year or a 2-year option. That's because in our 2-year option, you actually have the possibility of doing a 1-year co-op in industry. And that's a paid position, right? And you can do it anywhere in the world. Most of our students, choose to do that in the United States. But this is a great way to enhance your skill set, build your network, and certainly earn some money as well to help you, cover tuition investment costs, right? So what makes us different, would I say, about the Master of Engineering Management program? Again, one is that we are smaller. So we do a lot of individual mentorship and guidance with our students. Everything from job offer negotiation to interview preparation. We talk to you about, anything that is beneficial to your own growth. And that is a wide range of topics. We do weekly seminars with our students. So in terms of that holistic professional development, I just offered a session last week on how to talk like TED, right? Which is sort of using a text and distilling what are some of the presentation and communication secrets that we find to be common across TED Talks and why are those so powerful? We facilitated a session 2 weeks ago on behavioral interviews and how to really master those tactics. We've done a recent session with 3 of our alums that are currently at Microsoft in program manager roles full time. So that speaks both to the professional development side, but also the industry partnership side of things as well. So we really cover a wide range of topics there: intercultural competency, dining etiquette, utilizing LinkedIn for networking. I mean, it's truly just a wide range. We have different career talks that are given throughout the year as well, featuring our alums and others. We also have several partnerships that are directly coordinated with companies for hiring at co-op and in full-time levels. After this presentation, I'm sending a few resumes over to one of our local company partners. I know we have students interviewing with a Fortune 500 company right now, also for co-op positions. That's a result of a direct partnership that we have between the Master of Engineering Management program and this company. We're going on the 4th year of that partnership where they hire 1 or 2 of our students every single year. So there are a lot of really unique pieces of that, and I've mentioned that curriculum side of things as well, along with the internship and co-op opportunities. So, I mean, if you think about this collectively, cumulatively, you're getting management courses, but you're getting technical depth. You get to build your own curriculum. You get to add additional paid industry experience as part of this program, right? You get a really personalized attention and guidance. from our program, yet you still get access to the resource-rich environment of Purdue University. And then it's not just the courses and it's not just the industry experience, but then you're also growing your additional professional skills in terms of communication and networking and intercultural competency, not to mention many others. So I think there's a lot of collective pieces to the program that really add up to something special. And we're lucky to have alums that would tell us so, that they had great experiences with us. So, obviously, don't let me just tell you this. Let's look at what the data says, right? I started mentioning some of these companies here a few minutes ago, but this is not an exhaustive list, but certainly an impressive, I think, and representative list of companies that have hired our students. When you look at where our students are earning just right out of their master's degree, that's something we feel really strongly about. We've had students earn up to about $130K as graduates from our program. From our most recent class, we've got, I think my last count was like 7 or 8 salaries at 6 figures right off the bat. And so we're really proud of this placement. And this is also factoring in COVID times right now, folks, right? We know that many sectors in particular, whether it's automotive, oil and gas, have really unfortunately been negatively impacted. But fortunately, because of the unique competitive advantage, I think, that our students are building while they're with us, they've still been very successful with their job searches. And even in cases where maybe it took a little longer, or even they had an offer that had to get rescinded or was delayed for a bit, we've just still seen really fantastic success from recent grads. And then I should also mention, we've got students that are 3 years out that have really seen their careers grow, both laterally and, up the org chart as well. Here's like one example that comes to mind would be one of our students after graduation was working with Boeing in their leadership rotation program. That student stayed with Boeing for about 3 years and then transitioned to Microsoft. This student was an undergrad in Aero, right? And then worked at Boeing and then managed to move over to a software company, without previously coming from an ECE background, which is pretty awesome. To me, obviously that's a testament to the student and her ability, but it also shows, the flexibility and the creative problem solving and just the pliability of the experience that our degree gives you, where you can make a transition like that. So pretty cool stuff. All right, and then we've addressed this a bit already, but just kind of wanting to give you a few more examples of what our students tend to do after graduation. We've got students that move into consulting work. Primarily with some of the big consulting firms like McKinsey or Deloitte. I was talking with one of our alums that's a systems 2 engineer with one of the major defense companies. I was just talking with him. You've got one of our recent alums that's only been out about 12 or 14 months, I think, who's already been promoted with Amazon and is now opening up a new facility with them as her primary charge up in Wisconsin. So it's really cool to see that our students be successful. And this data that I've pulled for you here is actually from the US Bureau of Labor Statistics. So this is data that from the most recent year, I believe 2018 is the last time this is last time this has been calculated, excuse me. So these are the median salaries that you would find for engineers in these types of roles. So what I'm trying to show you here is that, demand from our program specifically on the previous slide, and then also what the industry demand looks like, beyond our program directly. And again, both of these look good. I won't play this video again either here, but this is on our alumni page of our site. And if you wanted to hear from Bhagyashree, who is now a thermal engineer at Intel, definitely hear from her directly. She's graduated a few years back. I actually just had the pleasure of facilitating a session with Bhagyashree a week and a half ago as part of our Intel Days at Purdue series. And so definitely, if you get a minute, hear from Bhagyashree and what her experience was like with our Master of Engineering Management program. I'll take a quick break here. If folks have questions at all, I'm happy to answer those. So just as a friendly reminder, feel free to share those either through the chat or directly if you wanted to unmute and introduce yourself. I'd be happy to hear from you audio and video wise. All right, good deal. All right, so let's continue. Don't be shy though if any questions come up, folks. All right, so if you're interested in applying, what are we looking for, and what does that timeline look like? Right now, we have about a few weeks left of our spring 21. So just in the case that anybody was thinking about trying to gain admission for this coming January, which of course is rapidly approaching, November 1 will be our deadline there. But primarily here, I'm focusing on the next academic year. So, of course, having a bachelor's degree doesn't have to be in engineering, but usually is. But we've welcomed students from statistics or physics backgrounds in the past, as an example. I won't read all these off to you here. Jabril, thanks for your question. So are there specific types of recommendations that we look for? You may notice here we ask for 3 letters. I think many programs ask for 2. The reason we ask for 3 is that generally we are looking for some representation from industry of some type. So, if you're coming from full-time, maybe that's a current or recent supervisor or a client, whatever the case might be. If you are joining directly from undergrad, maybe that's from an internship or co-op supervisor. So what we're trying to do as more of an industry-focused program is have a bit of balance there. So ideally, they won't all be coming from the academic side. That's still allowed. It won't hurt your application if they all are academic. But ideally, we'd like to see somebody from an industry side, or at least somebody maybe that's like a student org advisor. If you are on a nonprofit board, maybe the executive director of that organization, something like that kind of helps round you out as a candidate beyond just the academic side. So, Jabril, thanks for that question. The other piece I wanted to mention here too is that on the GRE score side, just this last year, we have begun waiving that requirement for both Purdue's current students and alumni. Our thought process behind that, I suppose, is just that, we understand how rigorous it is to complete an engineering degree at Purdue. And, we certainly want to give our Boilermakers an extra shot to be admitted with us. So at least we have removed that requirement for our Boilermakers. And yes, that will continue to be waived for Purdue students and alums moving forward. So great question. Natalie, thank you. How can the students tailor their applications to this program versus research? That's a really great question. So the answer I would probably give there primarily is that when students are writing that essay, particularly I'm thinking about the statement of purpose, why do they want more of an industry-focused program? And how does it align with their goals, right? So, talking about, let's say, they're interested in going into program management, and they realize that as a program manager, in order to be effective, they need to have not only technical skills, but they also need exposure to, analytics and to team building and dynamics in that regard. And so that's maybe a reason that, they're looking for a program like this. So I think that's really important. And again, I think a difference there too is, right, like if a student's writing a statement of purpose for a research program, they're typically gearing their application to align with a faculty member's research, which is appropriate for that type of program, right? The cool thing about applying for one of these types of programs, whether it's a professional master's, that's discipline specific, or engineering management, that it's really about the student, right? It's instead of talking about a professor's research and why they're interested, they're talking about what they want to do with their career and how they're going to use this flexible curriculum and experience to get there. All right. But I would still say for sure that undergrad research is still very valuable. Capstone projects, undergrad research, internships, or co-ops in industry, all of those are very much equally valued in our program. So that's wonderful questions, and thank you all for those. All right. The one thing I will mention here for the fall, if possible, that first round is really ideal. Like over the last 2 rounds of fall applications, our applications have gone up almost 80% in 2 years. So there continues to be substantially exponential increase in demand. But as you can see, we're a smaller program of just 70 total students, right? So we typically have a cohort of around 30 or 35 students in a given year. So if you apply by that first round, that's useful because all of our spots are available at that point. And it's also useful for you as a potential incoming student because registration for the following fall usually opens in late March. And because we have that flexible curriculum, we're trying to help students leverage the flexibility of that by signing up for classes as early as possible. So, for students that are admitted, usually you find out by the end of February, maybe early March at the very latest. And so if you get that offer and you'd like to join, that allows you to sign up for classes right away when registration opens before spots start to really fill up. Just checking my time here. So yeah, great questions on that side, folks. All right, we had this tuition question earlier, but I just did want to kind of mention this. And then just in case folks are looking at this from outside of the kind of immediate Purdue community here, we have a really lovely community that we live in. We have proximity, to Indianapolis, 1 hour away, and Chicago, 2.5 hours away. So it's awesome, pre-COVID times, going down to the zoos or to live music events or cultural events. But, because of the university, the world sort of comes to us in this greater Lafayette area. Like I've seen the Dalai Lama speak on campus before. I've seen Amy Tan speak, a renowned author. I'm trying to think of others. We usually get great concerts each year. Wonderful. Let's see, Steve Wozniak came, like co-founder of Apple, right? I've seen Spike Lee, awesome director of film, come to campus before. I mean, we just get like incredible folks here on the cultural side, on the academic side, on the music side, on the industry side. And it's just a really cozy community too. And we have really neat like farmers markets downtown. We've got some really cool parks within 20 minutes for hiking and family time. It's just a really great community here. Jordan, great question in terms of, is there an advantage for applying fall versus spring? I would say the one piece I'd mention there is that, since most of our applicants are applying for fall, that, we do get a fair amount of applicants in the spring, and we've seen a lot of growth there. Just this today, I noticed our applications for this coming spring just surpassed last year's already. So we continue to see demand there. I would say there are definitely a lot fewer applicants in spring, so that could potentially give you an advantage, I suppose. Although we typically don't alter our percentage, right, or the number of students that we would admit, just because we have a smaller number. So I wouldn't let that necessarily be your guiding factor when it comes to applying versus fall versus spring. Great questions. All right, I'm going to take about 5 more minutes here, and then we'll give folks a break because I know we've got that 2 o'clock session, and we'll want to just make sure that you have a chance to take a break or that I can answer any questions for you directly. So looking forward, what are we up to next within our Master of Engineering Management group? And this is a group of some of our international students from the previous year. So next, we actually are in the process of continuing to build new hiring partnerships. I'm in conversations with multiple companies right now in multiple sectors, like there's a chemical company I'm speaking with, a consulting company, just as a couple of examples, where we're working on more direct relationships where I can literally send resumes directly from our program to a hiring manager, to an HR representative for consideration. So it really helps our students get direct connections to companies, and in many cases, sometimes bypass like a traditional hiring process, right? We're also working on bringing in coursework that's focused on innovation engineering, which is really exciting. We have a professor that we're going to be partnering with, and right now we are exploring an additional concentration within our program that would focus on innovation engineering. And then we're also in the process of building an industry alumni advisory council. So I was just having a conversation last Friday with one of our alums who's very interested in kind of helping be an active partner in this. And what we're discussing here is kind of hosting 2 meetings. Right now they'll be virtual, obviously, but basically like 2 mini conferences every year, one in the fall, one in the spring, where we're bringing a group of, let's say, 8 to 10 graduates of Purdue's Master of Engineering Management program together. And they're going to basically offer small talks on their particular companies, on their industries. And then we're even exploring possibilities for one-on-one coaching with these alums. So this individual has just accepted a position with a major online furniture distribution company. Maybe I'll be a bit obtuse about it there, and be working in like strategic supply chain area. So connecting with somebody like that has direct influence over hiring decisions, but that also is at this higher level, so that you can really get some direct coaching on your profile and how to break into the industry successfully, I think will be really invaluable. Matthew, great question. In terms of the GRE, we are still requiring the GRE for students that are not Purdue currently or Purdue alums, because there is like an at-home option or a virtual that ETS is offering. And so the GRE is still required for our students, at least in the Master of Engineering Management program. If you're looking at applying to one of the other professional master's programs, definitely check out that landing page that I shared earlier in the chat, to make sure that you're aware of what the requirements are there. All right, so if you're interested in learning more about the Master of Engineering Management program, you can check us out through our website here. We are pretty active on LinkedIn in particular. Some of the other social medias, we're going to be building that back up here. Really, the best way to connect with us is through LinkedIn. We are an industry-focused professional program, so that just makes sense, right? I will also say I am open to follow-ups for one-on-one conversations if you'd like to talk more directly about your profile in terms of its competitiveness, and preparing one that is competitive for admission. If you'd like to talk about how this degree may fit with your own interests and goals. Again, I said we're a high touch, like personalized guidance type of program. And that's not just once you're with us, right? That's the entire way. So we're very happy to provide one-on-one conversations, Zoom meetings, phone calls, whatever is helpful for you. At this stage where you're exploring programs, I always view kind of my role here is really to help you understand who we are, so that you can assess whether we're a potential fit or not for yourself, right? So that's really my approach here is hopefully to kind of pull back the curtain a bit and help you understand, some of the more non-traditional graduate program options that are available to you. Certainly here at Purdue, we hope, in the College of Engineering. So thank you all for joining us this afternoon. I hope this has given you some additional information that gives you a better understanding of how you might tailor your profile specifically to move into leadership roles and managerial roles within industry. So thank you all for joining. Are there any questions before we adjourn here? If you do have any, feel free to post one in the chat or unmute yourself.